righteous, fools leading the way. You find the way back, struggling with simplicity. Oh, still you lose your righteousness through your contempt. A travesty of self-indulgence through the flesh. A dynasty mounted on lies of youth despair. Conspiracy of life arcane, you fools, repent, repent. Fall out, fall out, fall out. Deep inside the soul grows images of destiny. Who leads this tyranny? Hating all there is to love, loving all there is to hate. Simplicity regenerates. Fuck your focus, fuck the world. The centrifuge of lies, your hate proves your demise. Obsession, regression, no relevant discretion. Who'll be your savior now? You crucify them all. How long has it been since you fought for yourself? Trading your integrity for bits of something else. Almighty, so righteous, fools leading the way. You find the way back, struggling through simplicity. I am finding myself, placing this guilt on all of those who claim they see a better place to pull the sheep, making you what they think you should be. How long has it been since you fought for yourself? Trading your integrity for bits of something else. Almighty, so righteous, fools leading the way. You find the way back, struggling through simplicity. I'll show you fools your righteousness through your contempt. A travesty of self-indulgence through the flesh. A
I was with you.
They're coming to get you by the power of Christ.
This is Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to STS sessions for Saturday for Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. Joining us again, we have the lovely Lindy. What's going on, Lindy?
Not a whole lot.
Just living the dream.
Just living the dream.
Just living the dream. How you doing tonight, Spar? You doing all right, man?
I'm doing great, dude.
Sweet. Sweet. We're going to do something a little different tonight, if that's cool with you guys. I thought maybe we'd show the people how the sausage was made. Do you want to show the people how the sausage is made?
Absolutely.
Right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're actually gonna record an episode tonight. So if you want to like sneak peek of an episode that's gonna be like 2 weeks out, this is it. So stick around if you want to see how the sausage is made. And feel free to chime in if you want at any time. This is going to be a rare opportunity for you to be on the actual podcast episode if you want to. So, you ready? Okay, normally I have a little button and it goes ding dong or something like that. And then we go into the intro, right? So just pretend like the little intro thing is going. And here we go.
All right.
Labor Day, 1949. A 28-year-old World War II veteran named Howard Unruh left the home he shared with his mother in Camden, New Jersey, sometime in the early evening to head across the Delaware River to the Family Theater in Philadelphia to meet a date. Traffic held him up, and when he arrived over 20 minutes late, he found that his date had left, and he proceeded to sit through 3 showings of the double feature that evening, I Cheated the Law and The Lady Gambles. When he finally arrived back at his home sometime after 3 a.m., he found that his newly installed back gate had been broken. And when he got out the next morning, he would take a 10-minute stroll through his neighborhood, killing 13 and wounding many others, making him the very first widely known spree killer in American history. So bring out your Kermit impressions and your bulletproof vests, because today we're discussing Howard Unruh and his infamous walk of death.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
I was with you.
They're coming to get you by the power of Christ.
This is Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Okay, so those are a couple minor things that really set him off.
I think that was just the thing that broke the camel's back, man.
Right.
This is weird. We're doing this on the STS sessions, the live stream, basically so we can let people know that we do a live stream once a week, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live and also on YouTube Live. Our channels you can find it at HMFPPOD. But yeah, this one is, he's technically not the first spree killer or first mass shooter, but he's the first widely known.
He got some numbers up there in 10 minutes. That's for sure.
I was gonna say, yeah. He was a pretty good shot, and you'll find out why in a just a wee bit here.
Thank goodness Elliot Rogers was not.
Hey ho, dear. Hey ho. Yeah. So I'm gonna start off just by going through his background and give you a little information on his rising. The way he was raised and whatnot. So Howard Barton Unruh was born on January 21st, 1921 to his parents Samuel Shipley Unruh and Frida E. Vollmer. He was the oldest of 2 children, his brother James being born in 1924. So they weren't that far apart, just 3 years apart. Unlike most of the other children that we've done in the past, like as far as serial killers and stuff like that, he had a pretty uneventful childhood. I'm saying way too much again. You're supposed to give me shit about that.
It's the same thing with Elliot Rogers, though. His childhood was freaking amazing. And he just lost
he's
it.
spoiled little bitch.
Yeah, See, I'm going to make him mad all over.
Howard wasn't spoiled. He was a little bit below average as far as everything goes. As an infant, he didn't walk or talk until he was 16 months old. I think potty training took a little bit longer than it probably should have as well, from what I understand. But as far as like his younger brother was concerned, there was no sibling rivalry. Neither of the boys were like beaten, had any sort of corporal punishment, bestowed upon them. Most of the time when they got in trouble, they were just sent to the rooms. And that's not really any punishment at all. I mean, that's basically what I have to do to my kids now. Take their
And it
phones
certainly
away.
isn't anymore because my kid's got like a video game station in there that's got like 8,000 video games.
So you got to
on
take
it.
that shit away, Matt. You're not supposed to let him have that. The only real thing that Howard went through when he was a child was when he was 9 years old, his parents separated. And at the time, divorce separations, it was pretty rare. But I guess his parents had a really bad marriage, and they bickered constantly. His dad worked on a boat for the American Dredging Company, so he was on a boat, away from home for long periods of time, and he didn't really provide anybody in the family any real companionship, and I guess he really didn't make much money either. So he wasn't really providing for his family. So he and his brother were raised by his mom after his mom and dad split, and she went to work on an assembly line at the Evanston soap factory to support her children. During his adolescence,
Hang on.
Go.
Derek Finley sent a message that said, "I've got some shit on my hat." Cardinal fans.
Oh, shit. So during his adolescence, he kept to himself. He never really brought friends home, and he spent most of his time building model trains, collecting stamps, and reading his Bible. His only real social activity other than going to school was attending his local Lutheran church, and most of his grades in high school were average at best. I think the highest grades that I found on any report card that anyone has on file was like a B. I think he got like C's in mental alertness.
Well,
So he was definitely not the shiniest rock in the pile, but he wasn't a dumbass either.
right. And some kids learn different. And if it doesn't catch your interest, you're just
Yeah.
not gonna.
But I mean, he's a fucking nerd. I mean, he looked the part. Everything, like wire rim glasses, this freakishly high forehead. He's really tall, really thin, and super shy. The only school activity mentioned in his high school yearbook, I guess, was he was a member of the science club. So, nerd alert.
Okay. Back then, anyway, those dudes are badasses now.
Oh, yeah. When he graduated in 1939, he briefly went to work at several blue-collar jobs. Let's see. One was he was a printer's helper for a while, stamping press operator, and a sheet metal worker until he enlisted in the Army on October 27, 1942. Now, from here, he kind of turns into a badass. He was a crewman in the 342nd Armored Air Battalion throughout the Europe campaign from October 1944 to July 1945. He was knee-deep in the shit, and that was one of Patton's battalions. So a gentleman named Chow Allred, who served with him throughout this time, stated that there was no time he did not conduct himself in an intelligent, quiet, courteous, obedient manner. His character was above reproach. His rating as a soldier was excellent, and he was at all times a credit to his outfit, even under the most trying conditions while in conflict against the enemy.
Okay. Nothing but praise.
Yeah. Nerd alert.
Translation, he wasn't a skirt chaser.
No, definitely not a skirt chaser. Let's see.
He wasn't joining in with the boys?
Nope.
Going around?
No.
No. Okay.
Not at all.
His section chief, Norman Cohen, stated as he was a first class officer who never drank, swore, or chased girls. During much of World War II, during this time in Europe, soldiers were encouraged to visit brothels, some of which were set up by Army commanders because they thought it was good for the morale.
To blow off a little steam.
Patton was quoted as saying, "If they don't fuck, they don't fight." So he wanted to make sure these guys got laid because then they would fight, But Unruh never partook in any of these extracurricular activities. Instead, he spent most of his free time reading his Bible and writing long letters to his mother.
Oh boy, we're getting into another mother thing, huh?
He also kept meticulous notes on all of the enemies that he had killed in battle, including the time, date, place, and details of the corpses whenever possible.
Okay, there's red flags flying out.
Now they're starting to see. Now you're starting to see some flags. Okay. Like I stated before, this unit was part of General George Patton's Third Army. They took part in many battles throughout Europe, including the Battle of the Bulge. So, I mean, that's pretty deep in the shit, man.
That's big time.
He saw some serious action. He never advanced past the rank of private first class, though. But he did receive the European Theater of Operations Medal, Victory Medal, and Good Conduct Medal. So
he was doing his job.
Yeah, he went out there and he fucking killed people like he was supposed to. And then I guess, when you're fighting a war, you want good killers on your side, I guess, right?
Yeah, you do. I just don't think that leaves you.
Yeah. So after he was honorably discharged at the end of the war, he returned to New Jersey to live with his mother in a 3-room apartment in Kramer Hill, a small neighborhood of business made of businesses and family homes in East Camden, New Jersey.
Zach loves stories from New Jersey. You can't get enough.
Fucking Jersey, man. It's all about Clerks, man. It goes back to Clerks.
Who's the devil?
How many dicks? Try not to suck any dicks on your way to the bathroom.
37.
So he briefly went back to work as a sheet metal worker again, and he enrolled in Temple University School of Pharmacy in Philadelphia. But he quit after like a month, and he moved back in with his mom, who supported him by her income working at the soap factory. And he did this for the next 3 years. He just hung around the house. He would decorate his room with all his medals. He's got all these war memorabilia that he brought back that he smuggled in,
Mm-hmm.
And he'd read his Bible. And then he also would practice with his 9mm Luger pistol he bought for $37.50 from a pawn shop in the basement where he had set up a shooting range. The basement of his house.
I hope he had some really good headphones to wear, because that was devastatingly loud in a basement.
Yeah. Now, he had no friends. He had no ambition to get a job. Spent most of his time in his room, like I said, playing with the bayonets on the wall, ashtrays made from the German shells, and other shit that he smuggled home. He dated a girl for like 2 years during this time from the Bible study, and then he suddenly just broke things off with her unexpectedly, telling her he had no interest in marriage.
Oh, she was getting too serious, getting clammy.
Yeah, like the entire time they dated, he never held her hand or even tried to kiss her.
What a gentleman.
Something like that.
2 years?
He might be a fancy lad.
I was going to say he's not into girls at all, is he?
No. His neighbors found him particularly peculiar, not very friendly, but they thought he was harmless. He's like, fucking nerd. So over time, Unruh got in his head. He convinced himself that these people were all talking badly about him behind his back and calling him a parasitic mama's boy and a queer.
Oh, boy.
But the truth was, he was a queer. He was gay.
Oh, okay.
But at this time, it was illegal. So you had to hide it. And that, I can't imagine. I mean, we've come a long way, baby. That's all I can say. He would travel to Philadelphia like 2 or 3 times a week for random hookups with anonymous people that he didn't know. He even started renting a room by the week in Philadelphia specifically for these encounters. And he also kept a diary of all these encounters, just like his kill diary.
So he's got a kill diary and a sexual conquest diary.
Yes. When it was discovered later, the papers would refer to these diaries as records of, quote, social contacts with other men, unquote. Okay. And he continued to fuel his little paranoia. He started another diary, and it kind of reminds me of Billy Madison, kind of, a little bit. You remember when he calls up Steve Buscemi? He's like, man, I'm really sorry about all that shit. And he's like, crosses his name off the list.
People to kill list?
Yes. He had Unruh had made a list like this.
That is quite the diary.
This list of grievances from his neighbors The druggist who lived next door to him, Maurice Cohen, was at the very top of this list. Maurice and his wife, Rose, had complained about Unruh listening to the radio with the volume up too loudly late at night. But
because his hearing was shot from firing off that 9mm down in the basement.
he was listening to he was listening to classical music. It's not like he was like blaring like rock and roll or jazz. It's just classical music he was playing. But I guess their kid played bugle at odd hours as well because he'd gotten a bugle. Their kid had gotten a bugle for Christmas, and he complained about the kid playing the bugle too loud and stuff, and they never did anything about it. So he just
you play a bugle quietly though. I don't really
can.
I don't think that's a thing.
Not unless you go outside and bury it.
Okay.
They also bitched about him leaving the back gate open, which he used to get into the apartment that he lived in. Mm-hmm. So they kind of shared a backyard. And I guess they kept saying, they keep leaving the damn gate open and all these stray dogs keep getting into the garbage. Can you please shut the fucking gate?
Right.
And I guess it became so heated between them that Unruh's mother, she finally got a local dude to come in and install another gate specifically so Harold could use that one to enter their house. So I think that's the gate that was the final straw for him when he came home. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, there were lots of other people on this list as well. Thomas Segrino, he was the neighborhood tailor, had supposedly spread rumors about Unruh's homosexual activities. I believe he said something along the lines of he saw him blowing a guy in an alley or something in Jersey. He didn't like that at all. Then the barber, Mark Hoover, had dumped dirt beside Unruh's house while he was doing construction, and that caused his basement to flood. So that screwed up his shooting range, so that pissed him off. Then there was the cobbler down the street, John Pilarchek, who had tossed trash into his backyard, and Dominic Latello, the owner of the restaurant across the street from his house. He referred to him as a gun-toting gangster, which was not a cool thing back then.
Okay.
So, let's see. There's more. There's this teenage kid named Carl Sorg who stole power from Unruh's basement to light up the trees he sold during Christmas time. So he could light up the trees that he sold in the vacant lot behind the apartment that they lived in.
It just spliced into his shit.
Yeah. And beside all these people's names, he had made all these little notes like RETWTS, retaliate when time suitable, or he would put DNDR, do not delay retaliation.
Were they in a ranked order of first one?
No, I think it was just like he would just write down every little thing that happened under like he'd give them a page or, like 3 or 4 pages. And like every time they pissed him off, he'd just add it to the list and be like, oh, yep, retaliate when time suitable. Okay. So he stewed on all his shit for like 2 years while he just continued to live off his mom, shoot in the basement, and plot against all these people that had tried to tarnish his character. And it all came to a boiling point on that night I mentioned in the intro. Monday, September 5th, 1949. He drove to the aforementioned Family Theater, which was a well-known pickup spot for gay men at the time, in Philadelphia, to hook up with one of his little special friends. Okay. But he was late because of traffic, and by the time he got there, the man he'd hoped to meet there was gone.
You'd think he would have learned to be more punctual. I mean, seriously.
Well,
he was busy installing a gate.
Traffic is traffic.
That's true.
So he got there, the man's gone, and so he sits down and he proceeds to sit through 3 showings of a double feature, and he just stewed the whole time, feeling dejected, like, God damn it, So when he finally gets home around 3 a.m., he finds that this newly installed gate was broken, and he just automatically assumed that the Cohens had probably broke it out of spite. Right. But in fact, it was some local kids that had actually done it, and this wasn't discovered until after. So Howard decides he's going to go up to his room, and he lays down in his bed, and he just kind of stares at the ceiling, and he plots what he's going to do the next day. He just decides, yep, that's it. Fuck it. So he dozes off, and then it's got to be 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. At 8 o'clock, his mom, Frida, she calls him down for breakfast. She'd made him his usual fried eggs and post toasties. Sounds delicious. Yuck. And he came downstairs fully dressed in his best suit, white shirt, and he's got a little bow tie on, he's looking pretty slick. And he just sat down and quietly ate his breakfast. And then his mom kind of, she seems, he looks a little off, she thinks, And he finishes his breakfast and
A little wild in the eyes, maybe.
a little bit, a little distant, like he's just not all there. And he just walks out of the room, walks downstairs to the basement. He grabs a heavy lead pipe, returns back upstairs, goes to the living room, calls his mom. When she comes into the room, he raises the pipe above his head like he's going to just kill her right there. And she goes, "What do you want to go and do that for, Howard? Now, what do you want to go and do that for, Howard?" And she quickly just keeps backing away from him, and she gets to the door and she runs out of the house.
That's not terrifying at all.
Not at all. What do you want to go and do that for, Howard? So Howard goes back up to his room at this point, grabs his Luger 9mm pistol, an extra clip, stuffs about 33 extra cartridges into his pockets before he left the apartment, headed to the local shoe store. He thought about this all, for a few hours there, and he decided if he was going to do this, he was probably going to have to wait until at least 9 a.m. in the morning to do it, because he knew
So
if he
people
waited,
are out.
Yeah, he knows everybody's working. The shops are all going to be open at that point. It's going to be a lot easier to get this done. So begins the walk of death, as it is referred to. At 9:30 a.m., 27-year-old John Pilarchik was nailing a sole to a shoe when Unruh entered his store, walked up to him, and without saying a word, shot him in the stomach and then the head. Never said a word. Just shot him, turned around, walked out of the shoe store, and headed next door to the barbershop that Clark Hoover owned. Hoover was cutting the hair of a 6-year-old boy named Oris Smith, who sat on one of those carousel horses before his first day of school, which was the following day. He was going to get a haircut, wanted to look good for his first day of school. So Unruh calls out to Hoover and he says, "I've got something for you here, Clarky," before shooting Hoover in the head and the boy in the neck, both fatally.
Why do you always do episodes like this? Every time.
I'm trying to get you back, you motherfucker. Now, the boy's mother's sitting right there the whole time this is going on, and she's screaming and runs to grab her boy, and Unruh just turns and ignores her as she runs with her son out the door behind him. He just casually walks out, makes his way up the block towards the Cohen's pharmacy.
So the boy lives?
No. The boy was dead already.
Oh.
When he got to the front door of the pharmacy, Unruh encountered this insurance salesman named James Hutton, who he had a policy with, by the way. And he's walking out the door. And, Unruh's sitting there, he's holding a gun. And he says to this Mr. Hutton, he says, "Excuse me, sir." And Hutton freezes because he's like, holy shit, this guy's got a gun. And because he didn't move out of the way, just instantaneously, he just shoots him in the chest and then just walks over his body into the pharmacy. So the gunshot alerts the Cohens, and they run up the back stairs to their apartment above the pharmacy. So Unruh makes his way to the rear store. He sees the Cohen running up the stairs into their apartment. Once they get into the apartment, Cohen climbs through a window onto the porch roof, and his wife Rose hid herself and their son, 12-year-old Charles, in separate closets. Unruh immediately discovered Rose hiding in a closet, shot through the door 3 times of the closet before opening it up again and shooting her one more time in the head. He walks across the apartment. He sees Cohen's mother, Minnie, age 63. She's sitting there trying to dial the police, so he shoots her in the face. Then he looks and sees Cohen outside the window and shot him in the back through the window, causing him to fall off the roof onto the pavement, dead. Now Charles, the younger, their son, he's still hiding in the other closet, and he never is detected by Unruh.
Oh, thank God.
And here's the most fucked up, scary shit. I kind of got chills when I found this out. 6 years later, Charles's granddaughter, Carly Novell, she would survive a mass shooting at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, by hiding in a closet just like her grandfather did.
Oh, I got chills too when you just said that.
That is fucking crazy, isn't it?
Oh,
Who taught you how to do that? Oh, I learned that from Grandpa.
yeah.
That's pretty weird. So at this point, Unruh walks back down the stairs of the pharmacy, puts a new clip in his pistol, casually makes his way towards Thomas Agrino's tailor shop. Now, as soon as he comes out of the pharmacy, he's facing River Road. And when he went to cross River Road, a car driven by 24-year-old Alvin Day, who was a World War II veteran too, and a TV repairman, he slows down because he sees the insurance guy, James Hutton, his body is just laying outside the pharmacy. He's just sitting there, dead on the ground. The guy's like, what the fuck? So when he slows down, Unruh just walks up to the driver's side of the car real casually and just shoots him in the head through the passenger window. At this point, there's a few other guys on the side of the street that witness this particular shooting. They're all standing outside this neighborhood bar owned by Frank Engel. And, as soon as Unruh sees them, he fires several shots in their direction, and they dove back inside the bar for cover. Then Unruh fires into an apartment window when he sees a curtain move, and he continues to make his way towards the tailor shop. Now, the curtain moving was 2-year-old Thomas Hamilton, who'd opened the front window curtain to see what the noise was coming from, and when he did so, he was struck by gunfire and died instantly.
Okay, this is the worst episode so far.
You're welcome. You told me to raise it up. Here we go.
I did not.
Now, Irene Rice, who was the boy's caregiver, she collapsed immediately when she saw this, and she was treated for shock.
Yeah, probably for the rest of her life.
Yeah. Now, Unruh would later claim he didn't know who he saw in the window. It was more like he just saw movement, and it was, just an automatic response to shoot. And he didn't know that he'd killed that boy.
I don't think he cared because he killed one earlier. He didn't give a shit about it, and there's no way he didn't know that was a child he shot in the throat.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy. I don't care what he says.
I want you to know all these events take place. This is all in like a 12-minute period that this all happens. And he's walking casually the whole time he's
falling down. Was that the name of the movie where the guy just
Michael Douglas?
Michael Douglas loses his mind, and yeah.
So, Unruh, he's making his way to Thomas Zagrino's tailor shop. Thomas had left the tailor shop to run an errand, leaving his wife, 28-year-old Helga, there to watch the store while he was away. So when Unruh entered through the front door with the gun raised, excuse me, she pleads for her life, but he didn't say a word. He just shot her twice. Boom, boom. And then just turns around and exits the tailor shop. And then in a split-second decision, he decides he's going to head to the grocery store on the corner to kill the owner, Earl Horner, even though he wasn't on the list. He's just like, well,
I'm here. I'm this close.
We're walking. We're going this way. Might as well.
Right there.
I remember that one time when he gave me shit because he thought, because I said they'd shortchanged me or something like that. So he's like, fuck it, I'm going to take him out too. But when he gets there, the doors are locked because by this time, everybody had heard the gunshots. Mm-hmm. People are freaking out. So he just shoots several times to the front door of the grocery store before he sees a car waiting at the red light at the intersection of River Road and 32nd Street. So Unruh walks up to that car and just shoots the 3 occupants in that vehicle. Helene Wilson, 37, her son, John, 9, and mother, Emma Matlick, 68. The 2 women died instantly. The boy would die 18 hours later at Cooper Hospital from the gunshot wound to his neck. Having fun yet, Matt?
Nope. You win. You win.
All right. Yeah, this one was hard to get through, by the way.
Yeah, it's really hard to listen to.
So next, Unruh fired at the house behind his apartment, owned by a 37-year-old woman named Madeline Harry. Then he just walked up the front door, which was open, walked into the kitchen where Madeline was sitting there with her 2 sons, Armand and I think it's Leroy. She had not been on his list either, but he just fired 3 shots at her. He hit her once in the arm. The other 2 kind of went wild. At this point, her son Armando leapt up towards Unruh, and Unruh just hit him over the head with the butt of the gun, dropping him to his knees before he shot him in both arms. and then he aimed the gun at his chest and pulled the trigger. But at this point, the gun was empty. So he turns around, walks out of the house, reaches into his pockets for more rounds, but he realizes he's shot all of the rounds he brought. Now, during the time that Unruh entered the Harry's home, Frank Engel, the guy who owned the bar, he had run upstairs to his apartment, which was above his bar, grabbed his .38 revolver, gone to the second-story window of his apartment, and shot. He shot at Unruh as Unruh went back towards his apartment, and he actually hit him. But he hit him
with a .38? Oh.
But he hit him in the ass.
Good. Fucking eat it.
So at the time, he didn't know that he'd hit him at all because Unruh never slowed, never picked up his pace. He just kept moving.
He just took a .38 to the ass and just kept walking like it was nothing.
Yeah.
The dude was just dead inside at this point. Wasn't he?
Well, it gets better.
Or worse.
That's pretty much all the killing.
Okay.
So Unruh hears the police sirens in the distance, returns to his apartment around 9:43 a.m. This is 13 minutes after he'd left his apartment. So in 13 minutes.
So quick.
Yeah, he killed all these people. He proceeded to barricade himself in his room, laid in his bed, while he was quickly surrounded by upwards of 50 police officers, all carrying pistols, shotguns, and submachine guns, all aimed at his bedroom window.
We told you we'd do an episode with a good police force.
Yeah.
13 minutes later, and they're surrounded the place.
The only thing they did wrong is they didn't shoot this motherfucker right then and there.
I think that's frowned upon if he's not actually firing at them.
Yeah. So when the cops called out for Unruh to surrender, gunshots ensued.
Oh.
And by this time, the word had pretty well gotten out. And, you know, around this time, a lot of press hung out in police stations.
Yeah.
And when this particular journalist, his name was Philip Buxton, heard this come across on the radio, he immediately grabbed a phone book and just looked up Harold Unruh in the phone book. And
Dude's name, address right there.
Yeah. So he dialed it.
Oh.
So through all these gunshots, Unruh could hear his phone ringing. And it was Philip Buxton calling him. Unruh answered it in what Buxton described as a strong, clear voice. And this is the conversation that ensued. This is, by the way, this was the weirdest. He said, this is the strangest interview I ever had. That's what Philip Buxton said.
Yeah, I guess it probably would be.
So it went something like this. Howard answers and says, hello, in a really monotone voice. Is this Howard? Yes. What's the name of the party you want? Unruh? Then there's a pause. What's the last name of the party you want? Unruh. I'm a friend, and I want to know what they're doing to you. They're not doing a damn thing to me, but I'm doing plenty to them. How many have you killed? I don't know yet, because I haven't counted them. But it looks like a pretty good score. Why are you
It's a
killing
fucking
people?
game, huh?
Yeah. I don't know. I can't answer that yet. I'm too busy. And at this point, Buxton hears Unruh move away from the phone as, you know, gunfire was heard in the background. So he's like ducking for cover at this point. And then Unruh picks the phone back up and says, I'll have to talk to you later. A couple of friends are coming to get me. So, and this was all clear, monotone.
Just calm as can be.
Calm as could be. Now, this gunfight finally ended when police threw 2 tear gas bombs into Unruh's apartment window. I guess the first one didn't go off. The second one's the one that went off, and it filled the room with gas. So at this point, Unruh, you know, calls out, surrenders. 2 armed officers, Patrolman Charles Hance and Captain Everett Jocelyn, they go up to the first floor of the building and shouted, "Come down with your hands up." And then Unruh says, you know, I give up, don't shoot. Unruh emerges from the room, stumbles down the stairs, fell at the feet of these officers, and was handcuffed by one Sergeant Earl Wright.
They didn't like beat him or anything a little? They didn't rough him up?
I'm sure they roughed him up a little bit. I would be surprised if they didn't.
They just didn't account for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done once again with this.
They lost the paperwork on that one.
Whoops.
Whoops, Daisy. So they go upstairs and find an arsenal of weapons. There's a machete he purchased from LL Bean with the only intention of purchasing it was to decapitate the Coens. He wanted to cut their heads off with it. The guns, knives, bullet-making equipment, more than 700 rounds, and in a drawer, there were all his marksmanship medals. In the basement, there's his target range. On the table, there's his Bible open to Matthew chapter 24. And I don't know if you've read Matthew chapter 24, but that's the one that talks about the end of days. So they also found his diaries of homosexual encounters, and they also found the diaries of all the grievances he had. Okay. Now, because of all, this commotion, 50 cops showing up, there's this huge crowd that had gathered around, and they're all cursing him. Yeah. They're all saying, lynch this fucking asshole.
Exactly. It's actually probably a good thing there was so many cops because of the people being there.
Held accountable because of it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And as he's hauled off to be put in a police car, one of the officers asked him, what the hell's the matter with you? Are you a psycho? And he responded with, I'm not a psycho. I've got a good mind.
I got a good brain.
I got me one of them fancy brains. And this is where we take a drink because my throat's... I don't know about you, man, but my Texas allergies are killing me right now.
That's
little nuts.
That's worse than any one I've done.
I know. This one was pretty rough.
Absolutely.
This one
terrible.
Was really, really rough. Your sister says, sounds like this guy has some separation issues from the dad leaving. Blames his mom and mentally turns against women. Just my premature mental psychological evaluation.
He certainly turned against women, but that was...
Yeah.
He just didn't care who
just
he was
a little fucked up from his time in the military.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, anyway, back to the story.
But it almost seemed like he was enjoying it if he was writing it down. And
I think he was just very methodical. I think everything.
OCD's a bitch.
Yeah,
it certainly is.
Yeah. You're talking to the guy that sent you both exactly what I'm doing, so you can keep along and let me know if I'm fucking it up. What are you talking about? So they go back to the police station, Unruh's question, and he gives a statement for 2 hours beginning at 10:55 a.m. And he offered a detailed, cold, dry confession that was so long that with the final transcript ran 66 pages. When he was asked if he knew what he had done, he responded that, "Yep, and I deserve the electric chair." And that this idea had been brewing for a year or so after the people on this list had began butting into his business and saying things that were detrimental to his character.
Don't wet the rag either when you strap him in.
Yeah. I mean, he went as far as to say, I decided to wait until 9 a.m. because I knew by that time most of these people, their shops would be open and it would be easier to get this done quickly. When he was asked about all the children, he seemed to be pretty oblivious to having shot any of them, and he seemed really detached. Like he answered really coldly. He said the only one he had intended to shoot was the teenage boy, and that was only because he was getting in the way trying to protect his mother.
The one he shot in the neck in broad daylight outside of a store?
This is the kid he shot in both
No,
arms,
but I mean,
and then
so he didn't remember that, or
he claimed to not remember it, and then he was like, I guess I do feel sorry for killing the children, but no remorse for, just completely cold. He described it like in a clinical manner, like he was just doing an autopsy, just like kind of fucked up.
He's just a monster.
Yep, just a monster. It wasn't until Unruh gets up from this chair after this questioning to be led to a cell that officers see that this chair is covered in blood. So for 2 hours,
wound.
He had sat there for 2 hours and given exquisite detail and recounted all this shit without showing any signs of pain. Just completely numb. And that is what convinced the district attorney that he was probably terribly insane.
No shit.
Had to be nuts. So
38 to the ass. Just don't even acknowledge.
I guess the bullet lodged. It like went in his ass and it got lodged like in his femur. So it went into his leg.
It sounds painful.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. It's a 38 caliber too. We're not talking about 22.
It's not small.
Yeah.
22 is still exceptionally painful.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm sure. So, Unruh was taken to his cell while hospital arrangements were made at Cooper Hospital. Didn't take very long. That's the only time he would ever serve in jail.
What?
Yep. At Cooper Hospital, his wound was tended to. Police were placed beside his door, and he was in an isolated room. At this point, 5 different physicians interviewed Unruh at his bedside over the next 24 hours. During these interviews, Unruh confessed to the doctors that he had intended to kill his mother that day as well, not wanting her to live through the pain his crimes would cause her. He showed no signs of remorse, regret, none of it for anything he'd done. When the doctors were finished questioning him, the press was allowed to come in and take pictures, and Unruh cooperated with photographers. Like, they told him to move his head, and he would do so. Out of all these 5 doctors, only one of the doctors who interviewed him that day found him to be of sound mind. The other 4 thought he should probably go to more extensive psychiatric testing, which he did. When he was well enough to be released from Cooper Hospital, which was a little bit later that day, he was transferred to the New Jersey Mental Hospital of Trenton under heavy guard, where he was to remain for a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks, where he was visited twice daily by psychiatrists. After being subjected to every psychological test known at the time, on October 5th, it was thought that Unruh was suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, a form of it anyway, and he was unfit to stand trial. He would never stand trial. He spent the remainder of his long life in the state hospital for the mentally insane in Trenton, New Jersey, where he died on October 19th, 2009.
Holy shit.
Yeah, 88 years old. Charles Cohen, the boy that I just told you earlier was 12 years old at the time.
Yeah.
He actually died September 4th that year, so he outlived Charles Cohen in the end, which is completely fucking weird.
This sucks.
So Charles Cohen also was buried on September 6th, 60 years after the mass murder that he survived.
Yep. Now, there was a War Trophies division that kind of headed by the NRA that doubled down immediately after this walk of death. All these guys that had been in World War II that brought all these trophy firearms over. It was strongly urged for them to turn those in to be deactivated, and they would be returned. A lot of these fucking guys brought back grenades.
Oh, yeah.
Landmines. And then, they had all these small arms like, pistols, Lugers, and stuff like that. And I guess within 3 days of this shooting in New York City alone, 700 weapons were turned in. So, Unruh became known as the prototype for the lone wolf mass murderer, except for the fact that he didn't kill himself or try to commit suicide by cop at the end.
He didn't use one of the weapons that he brought back, right? He used one that he bought from a pawn shop.
That is correct, yeah. But he still had all this other.
But
shit.
He still had them. But that's not what he used.
He had other weapons in
the
the room.
killings.
He decided to use the Luger though because it was, I guess, it held more ammunition. The clips held more, and he'd been target practicing with that in the basement for 2 years, so he was pretty accurate.
Acquainted with
obviously. Yeah. One of the best-known quotes given during a psychiatric interview with Unruh was, "I'd have killed 1,000 if I had enough bullets." Sounds like a sane guy, right? Both his brother and his father later indicated that his wartime experience changed him, made him moody, nervous, detached. More than likely, he was suffering from PTSD before PTSD was a thing. In the end, 13 dead, 5 injured in 13 minutes. He was a real POS.
Yeah, That is so crazy fast too, to just be walking and still get that much done. Well, I guess you're walking down Main Street, store to store to store.
You'd have to be completely detached to do anything
empty.
like that.
So empty he couldn't feel a shot in his ass.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's Harold Unruh, the real piece of shit.
Hear another word about my stories.
So I got to lighten it up a little bit.
Every fucking
that was
story
hard.
you do, he dives on my ass. So many kids in this.
Well, I figured it was your turn, man.
Oh, yeah. Well,
trying to spice it up a little bit.
Punished on that one.
You guys got anything else?
Well, I would like to say that I got a little package here for the next person that writes in or comes on and tells us a story that's something that happened to them, because we got some things. We got some things to give away. If you're
holy shit, is that a Doris beer koozie?
It is a Doris beer koozie.
That's pretty badass.
And if you want to, put
sweet,
a little Doris beer in your coffee.
Coffee cup.
Nice mug here.
Nice.
That sounds amazing.
Amaze balls.
You can coffee and Everclear. There's probably
put your
coffee and Everclear is definitely a thing. Yeah, coffee and beer. I don't think so.
But Doris beer is Everclear.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's Everclear in a can. Right on. Well,
I think it would be fun if listeners too, if anybody has written a short story that's
for sure.
Yeah. Listener pasta.
Love to hear it.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
If you want one of us to read it, or if you want to come on and do it.
I recommend we get Lindy to do the reading stuff, because as you can see, me and Matt both need to go to Derek Zoolander's Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good and stuff. So. But
Does anybody out there have any questions?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Anything that they want to know?
Bueller.
Maybe what the next episode's going to be.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There we go.
True, yeah.
Yeah, we could do that. So yeah, guys, we do the live stream. We call it the STS sessions, which is short for Shoot the Shit sessions. Every Saturday on Facebook and on YouTube Live, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is kind of screwed up for Lindy. I'm sorry about that. She's in a different time zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys got anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, you nailed what you sent. No.
Nailed it.
All right.
Nailed it.
Well,
I'm gonna go cry for a little bit, and then
maybe heat up some Hot Pockets or some Pizza Pockets.
have some
pizza
rolls.
That'll make sense later, guys.
Don't.
Just keep
Don't
listening
eat
to the
those too
episode.
fast. Make sure you let them cool down first, Matt. We don't want you to burn the roof of your mouth again.
Burn my vagina clothes.
Right on. Well, guys, this episode will be 2 weeks from Tuesday. So, new episode this Tuesday will be Bathory. If you're listening to this on the podcast, then we're a week. It's reversed. Bathory would have been last week. So, until next week, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for continuing to rate, and review the podcast. My name is Zach. Over there we have
Spar.
And then in the middle, we've got
Lindy.
And we will see you guys next Tuesday. Until then, later.
Later.
Hey, Beagle! Don't touch it!
I was with you.
They're coming to get you by the power of Christ.
This is Hello, Mr. Fancy